Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me and my very special guests. They are Freestyle Love Supreme. I love this already. We're getting a little sneak peek beforehand. Please say hello to co-founder Anthony Veneziale, along with Aneesa Folds and Chris Sullivan. Hey, everyone.
Hi, Richard.
You sort of threw me for a second. I'm like, someone's going reverb already.
Already.
I love this. Well, listen, we have so much to talk about, including the FLS Academy School, which I'm fascinated by. And of course, your new documentary, which is We Are Freestyle Love Supreme, which kicks off this Friday, July 17th on Hulu. But before we get into all of that, first off, how are you all and where are you all?
Chilling.
Aneesa, why don't you take this? Where are you all?
Oh,
yeah.
I'm good. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. You know, really busy in the apartment. So,
Chris, where are you?
I'm also in Brooklyn, and my dog has been keeping my partner and I as entertained as possible.
And then Anthony, where are you?
Bustling metropolis of New Hope, Pennsylvania.
I love that.
My parents have lived here for 30 years, and I came out with my family about a month ago, and we've been quarantining with them in a pod.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this quarantine. I mean, I think it's our 125th day. Like, how have you all been dealing with, 125 days?
Truly, I realized, I think it hit me the other day that it was July. And I was like, wait, what? Because it was March just a few seconds ago. No one saw this coming. Even though, I had a friend that was in China who was literally like, guys, I've been running from this for months, and then he ended up coming to New York and he's still running. But yeah, we're just in the unknown right now. It's very strange.
So what was March like for the three of you? Because all of us, no one really knew what was happening. We sort of knew about it from the back burner, and we heard friends living in other countries, and then all of a sudden it hit here. But I've been speaking to other, stars and people working in the business, and they were like, that first few weeks were really, really tough because everybody was just trying to put everything into perspective and how to get through it. So what was it like for the three of you?
We were in the middle of our class shows for Freestyle Love Supreme Academy. So our participants had gone through an 8-week course, and at the end of it, everyone gets a performance. We had 3 performances, and then the lockdown really started taking hold, and we had to postpone the last 2.
That was one of my classes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So like Anthony, what was it like for you? Where were you when this all happened?
I split time between San Francisco and New York, and my family and I we live in San Francisco. And I actually was in New York because I was going to see the Freestyle Love Supreme Academy shows, and I was delivering a couple of workshops with my company Speechless, and I was doing a small interaction with the wonderful people at TED, and everything got canceled. And I got on a flight the next day because I was like, what if they lock down New York and I can't get back to California? So I was like, I need to get back to my kids. And it was just, for us, it was mostly like, well, how are we going to continue the education and, development of my kids, of my 2 girls who they're amazing and they're lovely, but socialization is mostly what's happening for my youngest one, for Osiella, who's my youngest daughter. She's 6. And it's been brutal. It has been really hard on her. She's cried herself to sleep many nights saying, I miss my friends, because, March and April, we didn't see anybody. So it was, I think, mental health wise, really tough on my kids and us.
Yeah. Cheyenne Jackson kicked off this series for me when we went virtual, and he has 2 young kids too. And he was like, it's really tough because they started homeschooling, but he was like dressing the kids and saying, now we're going to go to our little schoolhouse. He tried to keep structure in their life while trying to explain through this whole thing. So are you homeschooling at home?
Yeah, what we ended up doing is we kind of reached out to our community, and we created a bit of like a virtual community homeschool. And so, I'm pretty lucky. We have some overachievers inside of this, like these dear friends of ours. And it was, I was the improv teacher. So every other day I was leading a 45-minute improv class with the kids. And that was amazing. There were certain parts that you were like, wow, this is really great. Like, how cool we get to do this thing and, try to make the best with what we've got. But it was taxing, right? I mean, you are literally learning every day an entire new routine, and then you're getting your kids into an entire new routine every day, and you're trying to normalize it so that it does feel stable for them. But at the same time, you go to bed at night with your, with my dear partner. I'm like, how are we even going to do tomorrow?
Yeah. For each of you, like, when were you able to put stability back into your day? Like, was it at the end of March? Was it April? Was it like, because I know a lot of people who were like, they just took March off. They said, I'm not going to Zoom with anybody. No, but people were like, I don't know how this all works. All their friends were coming down with COVID. It's like no one knew what to do. So when were you able to be productive?
It was really, really stressful at the beginning and kind of overwhelming for me. I found myself having anxiety in quarantine because I felt pressure to keep the same schedule as I had when I was, living my real life. So it was very much me having to learn how to say no to things and people asking me to do things. And it was taxing, and I just wasn't in the right space for it. So I still feel kind of unstable because I still don't know what's happening. And I think the hard part was just trying to accept that we don't know what's going to happen, and we have to just sit in the now and use, deal with what we got. So
I love it. Like, we have to deal with the uncertainty. I call it eggshells. It's sort of like, I feel like all during the day you're positive and everything's happening, but you're still walking on an uncertainty. And I just think if we can find the happy place of knowing that there's an uncertainty going on, I think you can sort of find that, What about for you, Chris?
Well, routine always helps, and routines are always being added. Dog walks help. Knowing what day of the week helps.
Totally.
Being involved in social change and learning things about yourself and discovering how things could be better for all helps, because there's some form of progress occurring, and to be tapped into that is helpful. And, have a pizza night every Sunday, or have, I've started playing Dungeons and Dragons with some friends of mine. So then you have a regularity that's in the schedule. So those kind of things are really great benchmarks to continue feeling productive.
Yeah.
I think for me, just dovetailing on that, it's being of service. Like the moment in which I was able to be like, okay, this is now something that maybe I can provide or help others with. And so I think it was like the very beginning of April, through my company Speechless, I was like, I want to just host these restorative play sessions on Mondays, because exactly what you're talking about, Richard, so much of us are dealing with something called the uncertainty principle, which is a real difficult part of our brain. And improvisers, we're unbelievably lucky. We have a lot of neural networks that have been sort of created and built through process and time to say it's okay to be uncertain. We'll still find something pretty great. So getting to kind of do that every Monday for a large community, I had like hundreds of people joining in on these calls and then walking them through, hey, here's a process that you can do. Here's a step. Let's do a little bit of a guided journey together. Like that's what got me through for sure.
All right, well, let's go right to the Academy. I am fascinated by the FLS Academy School. Now, you talk about the brain. When I've seen your show numerous times. I saw it a few times off Broadway, and I saw it a few times at the booth. Sensational. I don't think I have laughed so hard in my life and had the most joyous. I wish I could explain the feeling of what it was like seeing Freestyle Love Supreme. Thank you. But I mean, the three of you, you're all so free. Your mind has to stay so free. So are you teaching right now at the school, like going through all this? Let's talk about the classes that are being offered during the summer.
Well, in our real life classes, we have 8 weeks, and at the end is a performance. That first class is called Foundations of Freestyle. That's the beginning part of the Freestyle Love Supreme show, where someone has people running around. This is improv.
Yeah. I love that. Fabulous. The world is going around. The world is all around us. Fabulous.
Yes. So the Foundations of Freestyle is the beginning of the Freestyle Love Supreme experience on stage. So when participants come through that experience, it opens up another world for them to become part of the community. We would have monthly rap sessions where people could come and jam. and have something that's called a cipher. So people can come together, we play a beat, or there's beatboxing, and it's exploring your own stories and reacting to prompts in the moment. We have adapted the foundations of freestyle curriculum into a form of a virtual introduction. So we've also had in forms of benchmarks throughout this pandemic, our community has been fantastic. We've had weekly and now twice a week virtual rap recesses where everybody comes together on Zoom and we do breakout rooms, and there's a check-in moment where people get to say how they're feeling emotionally, physically, develop their relationships internally. We have specialized rap recesses that we have recess of color, and we have work it recess for those identifying as female or non-binary or transgender. And it's been really amazing to explore our community, even in this crazy time we live in.
I'm fascinated by all of that. And then you also have a kids program too for youngins. It's
been the highlight. Like, going into this, I was so skeptical about, working online and teaching online, but every week the kids are ready, and it's so fun to watch them just take it all in. They're sponges, and they are having the greatest time and just improving every week and just becoming more confident. And you can feel that there's a sense of community, even though we are behind our screens, and they are, relating to each other and becoming friends. And it's really beautiful and been a highlight for me.
So Aneesa, you do the young kids, right? Is that what you teach?
Yeah, the teens. So they're like 7, 15 to, I don't know. They're teenagers.
Yeah, they're teenagers.
That's called the Freestyle Teen Supreme. Yeah,
they're very fun.
I love that. And then Chris, you do the adults?
We all share partnerships, and we have an amazing staff of facilitators of about, I think, 15 or so right now, which is amazing. We have 2 weeks of youth camp that are being offered this summer.
Yeah.
So we're putting those together at the same time as what Aneesa referred to as another form of a weekly session for the youth and the teens.
Now, Anthony, do you still teach there? Do you drop by special guests?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more of a special guest. I'm kind of I guess right now, for lack of a better word, just heading up the organization on the back end around the business of it all, making sure that our budgets are met, making sure that our investors and our board are in line and know what's going on with all of us. I started a company like this in San Francisco called Speechless, and we also offer a lot of this for like corporate America, as it were. And so I've taken a lot of those insights and try to map it onto the Freestyle Supreme Academy. So I do a little bit more of that, but whenever I can, like I've gotten to drop in on classes, or I'll just join a class because my girls will be in it. So sometimes my little ones will be in the class and I'll just be in the background being like, look at them go.
Anthony has also been you've been very instrumental in putting together the curriculum or the programming as well.
Yeah, a lot of that has come. Yeah. So I think in some way I might be that seed at the kernel of whatever this tree has become, in that I ran workshops like this at the United Nations International School back in 2004. And we have been working and developing and crafting these workshops in some way ever since then. And so a lot of the insights and the learning that we're going for, and mostly what we're working around here, is fostering a community of diverse creative voices. That's our mission. That's our goal. If we are able to create an equitable space where people feel safe to be themselves and their authentic voices and share that perspective, we think all boats are going to rise. That's our whole raison d'etre.
See, I would think that even people who don't want to do this as a career, just regular people going to this, I would think, what do you offer regular people who don't want to do this as a career? But I'm sure they walk away with so much.
Yeah, I mean, so every walk of life is welcome to this. People apply, and then from those applications, we make sure that the rooms are robust, meaning that there's lots of different people who look, think, and act differently from one another. So we have 65-year-old dentist in the room with an 18-year-old from Orlando who is a hip hop artist, with a transgender, queer identifying New York City sculpture artist. There's all these different things, because what's really going on here for most people is that we're creating this process around creativity in your brain and allowing a lot of neural networks to be created that helps you to be the most confident version of yourself, and to take those skills to all walks of life, like to whatever it is that you want to put your mind and heart into. This will help you to do that.
And something else I read, there's no hierarchy there, which I think is fascinating. Everybody's on the same level playing field, right?
Yeah, we try to facilitate experiences, meaning that we don't think of ourselves as teachers. We think of ourselves as people in the room who are sharing and learning just as much from those who are in the group as the people who are taking it for the very first time. We have so much to learn. Yes, we might have a skill set that we have crafted, but to think that we will somehow bank style or deposit style put that process into their minds is a vestigial colonialization of learning that still happens today, and it's a really sad way of learning. We think that learning is much more experiential. It's much more about the wisdom of the room being greater than any individual.
So for Aneesa and Chris, being teachers, what's given you the biggest satisfaction, of teaching? What have you taken away from that?
Just watching people, because I myself went through the academy. This is how this journey started for me, and just watching people who were kind of unsure of this class, and as Anthony said, we kind of try to create this safe space, and it's okay to fail. That's what improv is. We're failing and we're learning, we're creating together, and just to see them come out of their shells and feel just confident enough to be themselves, because that's what it is. You're bringing yourself to the table, whatever you have. It's not about rhyming and becoming, the best rapper there is. It's about becoming a version of you that is able to do this cool thing in this community.
Yeah. Chris, for you.
I would piggyback onto that as well. There's a lot of key phrases that I've heard other participants use as when we were taking a course. One was, now that I've taken the course, now I know how to take the course. So people take it again. People may come in like, let me go in and learn how to rhyme. And then they find out that, actually learning how to rhyme or learning how to beatbox has a lot to do with practice. And that takes years. And this course is not years. So what we're hoping to do is opening up the ways to attack those. Hey, buddy.
Yoda.
My dog just walked in the room.
Bring your dog up. Bring him on your lap. Is it a boy or a girl?
Show Yoda. Show Yoda. Show Yoda.
Yoda. Oh.
Hello.
Is that Yoda?
It's Yoda.
Yoda's big.
Yeah.
So what breed is Yoda? How old is Yoda?
Yoda is 2.5 years. He's part Catahoula leopard dog. He starts to look at the ground. He puts all his weight into his head. Part Catahoula leopard dog, part American Staffordshire, and then part Australian cattle dog. Catahoula leopard, Australian cattle. Yep.
Is he a breed? Is he a breed? I love mutts because I think we're all mutts. I'm a combination of 14 different nationalities. So I'm like, well, when you say it, Chris, he sounds like this designer breed.
His breed is Jedi.
Really? You had me in the first part.
Yeah. Do either of you two have pets too?
I do at home. I have a pit. His name is Marley, but in my parents' house. Yeah.
Okay. Anthony, you have 2 kids, so I get it. Do you have cats or what do you have? Dogs, cats?
I used to have a cat, and the cat did not like my children. And so the cat went to a dear friend who now.
You kept the kids, huh?
We kept the kids. We get yes. At Say Jack.
Very, very smart move. I think you made the right choice there.
Yeah.
I'm such a fan, like I said, of Freestyle Love Supreme, seeing the show downtown and then seeing it when you moved to Broadway. I mean, Anthony, give us the history of this, because you co-founded this with Tommy Kail and Lin-Manuel Miranda. How did it all start, and how do you explain what FLS is? It's a big question.
Easy question.
30 seconds or less.
It's an easy, long question. Listen, we're here till 1 o'clock.
Oh, nice. The good news is that there's a documentary that people can watch soon on Friday that does dive a little bit deeper into this. But basically, I was doing a lot of improv at college with a group called Gag Reflex. I got cut from the soccer team and I was devastated because I was a soccer player. Like, that's what I did. That's who I was. And then I tried out for this improv troupe because I was like, that's the coolest thing. How do these people do that? And I got into the troupe, and then like that's literally been my life for the last 25 years now. And when I moved to New York, I started a company called Backhouse Productions with Tommy Kail, Neil Stewart, and John Buffalo Mailer. And what we ended up doing was working on new shows. So we worked with Beau Willimon. We worked with Lin-Manuel Miranda, Sam Foreman. And the first musical we ever worked on was In the Heights. And during In the Heights, I was helping to run the theater. You know, we did a big fundraiser and we like painted all the walls black so we could then call it a theater, a black box theater at the basement of the Drama Bookshop. And I was running that theater. And actually, you know, I think there's like there's a little clip right from the documentary that I think we're going to show. This literally talks about it in the clip, which usually these clips are not good at all. Yeah, but I think this if we play the clip now, it might do all the heavy lifting for me. Yeah,
Alan, let's run that clip now from the documentary.
When we got to New York and started this little theater company and decided to work on In the Heights, Anthony would grab Lynn at every break and just start freestyling. And I'd be sort of wrangling them back. I was like, okay, let's go. We got to get back into the thing. And this was 2002, 2003, and they kept on doing it, and they had an idea to maybe make a show out of it.
Some people decided that we seemed like we knew what we were doing, and so they gave us the keys to the Drama Bookshop. Alan Hubby, who was the owner of the Drama Bookshop at the time, said, hey, would you create theater here? We were so young and dumb. We were like, of course, we know how to create theater.
We spent a lot of time in that basement, and Anthony was kind of running the Arthur C. Lynn Theater. That was sort of the job.
We started making stuff in a small room, much like this, that was painted black where nobody was paying attention to us. And that was our lab.
That, of course, was a clip from We Are Freestyle Love Supreme, the documentary which kicks off this Friday on Hulu, July 17th. That's crazy that was your job. You ran the Black Box Theater at the Drama Bookshop, right?
Yeah, I mean, I created it, right? So like Tom, Neil, John, and I, we had this little company, and then we were like, all right, let's paint it. Let's buy curtains. I'll build a booth. I did the electrical wiring on these 1900 boxes. And it says in the documentary too, but it's like, it was not up to code. It was definitely like sparks. But it was something. It was a place where we could like gather our friends and gather people who were doing exciting work and trying to make new stuff. And so, yeah, We Are Freestyle Supreme. We like to call the documentary for us, we're calling it Waffles, WAFLS. So there's some of those delicious syrupy stories inside of that for sure.
Okay, because Lynn has told me this before, and so has Tommy. Do you remember that first performance? You know, so much has happened with this group, but you were supposed to have your first performance at the People's Improv Theater back in 2003, which never happened that night. Like, what happened?
All right, so it's August 15th, 2003. It's the Eastern Seaboard blackout. So we're rehearsing what we were going to be doing the next day. Yeah. We're in that theater, and all the electricity goes out. And we're like, it's a theater. Electricity goes out in theaters. It'll come right back on. About 30 minutes later, nothing's back on. We look out the window, and people are just walking down the middle of the street. I was like, I don't think this is normal. And then we heard that there was a major outage that affected almost the entire Eastern Seaboard. And so we all just walked home. Lynn walked to Washington Heights. I walked to Brooklyn from 29th Street and 6th Avenue. Yeah. And then we were supposed to have a show on August 16th, 2003, the next day. Below 34th Street, the electricity wasn't back on. But above 34th Street, it was. So Times Square was bright lights. And the Arthur C. Lynn Theater was at the Drama Bookshop. That was on 40th Street. So we said, all right, everybody. We went to the theater, to the pit, and like 16, 17 people showed up, and we were there. We're like, we have beer, we have candles. Let's walk together. The lights will be on once we get up to 34th Street. And then we went into the theater. I had the keys and the code, so I unlocked the theater, and we did a performance for like 16 people for the very first show during the blackout.
And now look what's happened to you all, right?
And now we're in a pandemic.
Totally. Well, I want to go at full circle. I want to go back to the beginning, just growing up for all of you. Where did your love for the arts and performing begin? And then how did you all get involved? Anthony, you told me your story, but get involved with like improv and, beatboxing. Aneesa, let me start with you. Growing up, where did your love for the theater begin?
I had always sung, growing up. My dad used to sing at lounges. I wish I was allowed to see that. But I was in a sports camp, and one year I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then my mom was like, okay, what do you want to do? I said I wanted to sing, and so she made it her goal to just put me in everything that had to do with music. And then she put me in a program called Wingspan Arts Theater Conservatory, and that's kind of where it started. And I wanted to audition for schools, but wasn't sure if I wanted to do vocal. But if I did just vocal performance, then I would be restricted to just jazz, or either jazz performance or classical. And then I love musical theater, but I didn't know if I saw myself, if I knew that was a possibility for me. And then I saw In the Heights, and I just knew I knew the people on stage. I grew up with them. I went to school with them. That's, those are the neighborhoods. I'm from New York. I that was familiar to me. And so it just kind of, the way that it brought hip hop and salsa and bachata and all the different styles of music that I was familiar with to the theater, it just kind of lit a fire inside of me and was like, all right, things are changing. Yeah. You can be a part of something. So I auditioned for school, went to the Hart School of Music at the University of Hartford, and just kind of went from there. And I, did a bunch of other kind of programs. Growing up, the Young People's Chorus of New York City, I was always in choirs. The guys like to joke about it all the time, especially Bill Sherman. And improv, though, because of In the Heights, I was introduced to Freestyle Love Supreme through my friend. And I just was like, this is everything I've ever wanted on a stage, and I need to be a part of it. And I remember just recently I went through my old Tumblr from high school and college, and I found a post that said, went to Freestyle Love Supreme show for the second time, and I need to be a part of something like this. And then it's wild. But yeah, I just, doing the class, because I went to the academy, I just had never used all of these talents at once. And it opened a new world for me, and I just fell in love, and so lucky and grateful that the universe worked in my favor.
You fell in love too.
Yeah. Because Chris, you were her teacher, right?
He was.
I was her facilitator.
Oh, I'm sorry. We don't call it. I love it, facilitator. I love it. I love that word. Very fancy.
Aneesa brought her skills to the table, so she's often brought up as sort of the Cinderella story. But we just sort of found her, and she found us, and it's just, paths running together.
Well, I love, Aneesa, I love your story in the documentary, which everybody has to see starting Friday. But Chris, going back to you growing up, where did your love for performing? Did you want to be a regular singer or a musician? How did it start for you?
All I did know is that I wanted to. Can you imagine me being a singer?
Yes. I already agreed immediately.
I knew that music and entertainment was in my blood. When I was trying to learn music from an early age, I think 5th grade, I picked up a saxophone after half-hearted piano lessons and went to the trumpet. And by that time, I was in high school, and nothing really stuck with me until I tried percussion. And percussion gave my ADD mind a lot of things to hold on to. I had lots of other eclectic interests, and one of them was also being a part of the improv group in our community theater. So from there, when I went into college, I was still pursuing those things and more, and improv and hip hop and a cappella all kind of came together. So it was a big batter of a cake that I decided to keep going with, and moved to New York City and pursue improv. And I knew that something was going to happen. And so I was, I had a regular night, Thursday night at the Parkside Lounge on Houston that I was like the house band for. So it was improv groups and stand-ups would come through, and I was the music before the show, after the show, and in between the acts. And then I also got my own little piece every single time that I could get a suggestion from the audience and then improvise a soundscape. And then it would lead into a DJ routine where I would do beatboxing. So through doing that, I had a couple of friends of mine, 2 friends, and they both fight to this day over who told me first. And that was Brian DeSmet and Tamara. And so they told me about, there's this like workshopping of this new group, Freestyle Love Supreme. I think it was maybe their 2nd or 3rd show. I think the show after the blackout was the one that I actually came to. And afterwards I met Anthony and said, like, I think what we're doing really works well together. And we started rehearsing. And then soon after we were at Ars Nova on a real show. Yeah.
Did you just learn to beatbox at home? Like just try it out with a microphone? Like
there's a little bit of
premier beatboxer. You're the premier beatboxer.
That means not the first.
The premier.
Dougie Fresh and Bucky Robinson. We could really attribute those to, but beatboxing is all over the world. There's millions. It takes musicality and experimentation with making different sounds and noises and being able to work well with others as well as being a soloist. So there's millions of others who I think are way better than I am, but I'm here now.
We're going to name you Broadway's beatboxer. How's that?
I'll take it.
Take it. Now, you had mentioned ADD. That's got to be really helpful with what you all do, right? Because I watch you all work and how your minds work up there on stage doing this all. I mean, does that help if you have a little ADD?
We call Anthony Two-Touchopedia because he has a thin slice of every part of knowledge.
Everything. So ask him anything. Try it.
You know everything. I was researching, Anthony, about the whole brain thing, about how this all works. I mean, you've researched all this, sort of like how we retain things in our brain and everything else, right?
1 second.
Oh,
yes.
Can I put you on blast? Can I hold it? Can you hold a second? Can I put you on blast for a second? We're on Broadway World right now.
Oh my gosh! Look at this. Lynn, I've got your company here.
Fascinating about
hey, Lynn.
I like to tell you I love you.
I love you too.
Lynn, we all love you.
Procrastinate later, okay?
Okay, bye.
Look at that. A visit from Lin-Manuel. This is crazy. Look at this. Well, we'll get into that. Let's get into that. What has it been like collaborating with Lin-Manuel Miranda and, of course, Tommy Kail? Like being in the room with them and just collaborating with them. What's it like?
Well, for
Aneesa, I'm going to start with you because you were probably the biggest fan of these people after seeing In the Heights.
Yeah, I still am.
Yeah.
I was just nervous coming into this group because they have been doing the show for 16 years. And, me being one of the newest and youngest faces, it was just new to come in and be a stranger, but it wasn't like that at all. I was welcomed with open arms. And I'm the kind of person I don't like bothering people that are well known. So when I first met Lynn, I was just standing off to the side, but he came up to me and I was like, all right, great. That's over with. But it's been awesome working with them and just seeing their minds, all of them, everybody, the way that these guys work together has been a masterclass. I've learned more than I learned in all my years of college doing the show, because it's so many things. You have to be able to connect with the look of an eye and just pick up where somebody left off. And it's about so many things, and it applies to life in certain ways too. That's why, Anthony does work with people in corporate situations too. It's just really been a masterclass learning from everyone.
So I was going to ask Chris and Anthony, Tommy directed this show, but of course the show is new every night. I mean, everything, you have no idea when you get out there, what's it going to be like. So how do you rehearse something like FLS? Like, what were rehearsals like for the Greenwich House and then, of course, for Broadway?
It was a week of rehearsal, though, even, and that's scary when your friends are on Broadway and they have a month and you're like, I'm going to do this thing with these people that have an established relationship for a week. So I've truly thrown into it. That's how you learn. You just got to do it.
A fun way to think about it as it applies to the improv world is that there's form, that controls the chaos inside. So there's a classic form that's called a herald, which starts out with a group game where you're brainstorming, and then you have beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, another group game, and then you revisit, and then you have another thing, and then they all come together. So that's a mutually agreed upon structure. So the FLS form is a mutually agreed upon structure where we know the street map that we're on, but there's a lot of chaos that happens inside, and within that, it's all about I got your back. It's something we say to each other before every single show, and it's the fundamental understanding of yes and, which is not denying things that are going, so exploring things that come up. In between those three things is kind of, I feel, the bread and butter of the show.
Yeah.
And that also, Richard, gets a little bit to that, like the ADD of it all, right? That sort of thing you were talking about before. For both neuronormative and neurodiverse brains, which is the way I like to approach the difference of, hey, I might have attention deficit disorder. I might also be bipolar. I might be manic depressive. Like all of these things, there's variance of shape inside of your brain around that stuff. And when you give a little bit of structure with sort of an end goal, then what you're saying to that brilliant mind that might just not work the same as a normative brain, it still has all of the different roadmaps for being successful. So the thing that I think both works amazingly well for our show and then for our academy as well is that we set up some of those road marks, right? We set up the benchmarks for you to feel successful inside of, and that works for all kinds of modalities. That works for all kinds of brains.
I love that you're Mike 1. You're the MC of the show, Anthony. I was fascinated because I've seen you, like I said, many, many times with so many different audiences, and you were just so brilliant at what you do. And just, how do you do that? Like, how did you hone that skill?
It's that I think it's this 10,000 hour rule, right? That you often hear quoted from Malcolm Gladwell inside of some of his great work. But it's exposure. It's exposure therapy at the end of the day. It's trying stuff and failing. And I guess I'm incredibly lucky that I've gotten to try a lot of things. I've lived many lives, right? I have this amazing partner who is a doctor of public health, and we've traveled all over the world. I've lived in the Dominican Republic, in Rwanda, in Kenya, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Edinburgh. I've lived in lots of different places, and I think the thing for me is that I always try to approach it with a beginner's mindset. So what I'm looking for when I'm Mike 1 is what is going to be like fecund, right? What is going to be fertile? What is going to be something that we all are going to be able to sink our teeth into? So for example, that very first word that we get from the audience, right? Let's like our first thing is a mic check where we're all just like vibing with each other and getting into the right mind space. That first word is huge. And if it's something that's like just really simple, then or rather if it's one dimensional, then it might not give us enough leverage. It might not give us enough avenues to go down, right? There's a huge difference between the word skip, right? Which has there's a lot to the word skip, and tooth. I mean, even still, I still love being able to like go off on things, like just use it as a platform. And I guess that freedom of using things as a platform and then finding how you have experienced that and seeing how maybe you have something in common with those around you. That to me is like the baseline of hosting.
Yeah. A lot of the structure of FLS as well, that was masterfully put together with Anthony, but what Tommy really oversaw. And Tommy doesn't have a name in the show or a moniker, but we informally call him the architect because he's a brilliant architect. And within the Heights and Hamilton, we know that as well. But there's a lot of little intricacies that go into the show that we've tested and tried, like getting the word for our part that is true, the part of the show where everybody goes off onto something that the word reminds them of. Generally, it helps if that word is something that means a lot to you. So that way we already have something that can tie into a lot of the audience. So it's not just give me a word and then we just go off of tooth by accident, or everything's by accident, but we get something that has a little bit more weight to it.
I love it. You all made your Broadway debuts in this show. I mean, did you ever dream, seriously, with working on this, the journey you've all had with FLS, that you would ever be making your Broadway debut at the Booth Theater? I mean, Aneesa, take that one.
Yeah, I mean, because I've been doing musical theater for a while, it's always been my dream to be on Broadway. Never did I ever think it would be like this.
Yeah.
What a crazy show. First of all, improv is not on Broadway. That's not a thing. It's so new and exciting. And to do it on Broadway, I think it was really special, and the audiences really got a lot out of it.
What is that? What was that night like for you? I mean, it's such a magical thing. Broadway debuts only happen once. So what was that night like for you? What were you able to like focus on? I know you were focusing on the show, but were you also like, oh my gosh, I'm making my Broadway debut?
Yeah, with all of Freestyle Love Supreme, because it was the first time all of them were on stage together. All of us were on stage together. And it was exciting, chaotic, insane, but so much fun. And we're playing on stage. That's what we're doing. We're playing. We're hanging out with our friends and playing on stage. And it was just a magical night for me.
Chris, what do you remember about that night? And like, wow, we're making our Broadway debut.
It really ties into Freestyle Love Supreme as an entity, as a wonderful octopus with many, many legs that we never thought we'd make it to Edinburgh. We did shows in basements, and that's where we were just having fun. So to then have fun in front of a crowd, which is how it all began, we just continued to have fun in front of a crowd. And we knew that it could work in front of a larger crowd. Anthony, what was the largest crowd? Was it at the St. Regis's, or?
No, that would be at the Opera House down in Cape Town.
Yeah.
6,000 people.
So 6,000.
6,000.
So it wasn't our full show. We adapt, we make it into something, and for the Broadway show, for people who haven't seen it, is there's a way to incorporate and make everybody in the room who are audience members, even from the nosebleed seats. First of all, the Booth Theater is amazing, and there are no bad seats. But to get them involved. So we had a microphone in a foam ball that we would also throw back, or Anthony or Andrew Bancroft would go into the crowd literally and get suggestions from people that way. So we adapted and changed, and to go to Broadway just felt like the next step. So it was simultaneously, why are we here? But also, of course we're here.
Yeah.
Richard, for me on opening night, I'm of two minds on it. One, which is there's no precedent for improv really being on Broadway. I mean, there's a couple of moments throughout the history of Broadway. You've got Nichols and May, who would do a finely honed routine and then have a couple of improv moments in it. There's Full Moon with the amazing Bill Irwin, and these shows that are the underpinning and some of the inspiration, obviously, for what it is we do. But it's not a dream that an improviser has to go to Broadway, because it doesn't belong there. And so to have it be there and be embraced and say, no, this does belong here, that to me is sort of the biggest deal of it all. That it felt like it not legitimized improvisation, but said that there was a successful financial model around it that could really be something that future shows that do improvisation could use. So that is huge. And then the other part of my mind is I have one regret about opening night. So I've been working on the show with Tommy Kail and with Lynn, as we said, for a long time. And I haven't quite gotten to talk about what it's like to work with those two.
Yeah.
What it's like to work with those two is like being in a room of lightning thieves, people who just are able to grab brilliance and literally be holding lightning. Like they're incredible. They are both almost always the smartest people in any room that I've ever been in. And I've been in some pretty smart rooms. And I've been, collaborating with Tommy on and off for many, many years. And there's a moment that you'll see in the documentary too, that Tommy and I haven't been as close as we used to be when I moved out to San Francisco. But that night of opening night, I think it was overwhelming as well. And I didn't quite get to say to this whole audience, who included a lot of my heroes and our heroes, that the reason that this thing is as good as it is because of Tommy Kail. And that he's given the credit of director, which doesn't explain really what it is that he has done on this show. And like, that's why I think Chris was saying he's called the architect. He's even more than that. Like, he's sort of the DNA of brilliance that creates the mesh that we all fall onto every single night, and have for 20 years now, or 18 years of this being a thing. So I didn't get to say that to the audience that night, and I wish I did. So that's why I'm with 2 minds.
Well, now it's out here. It's just going to go all around the world. Everyone's going to watch this. It's opening nights are really strange because you had such a star-studded audience. You had everybody else on stage. I mean, like you said, it's the culmination of everything you worked for. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're here. The audience that comes to that show is amazing. I've been going to the theater, to Broadway, to off-Broadway, since I've been 10 years old. And I have to tell you, there was an electricity in that room every time I went. Just walking into the booth theater, getting a playbill, or whatever, and going down to your seat, or locking your phone away, which I loved, and just sitting there and getting caught up in this thing. That electricity must have been so great for all of you. For the second the lights went out in the booth theater and you all came out, like, what were the last things you do before you hit the stage? I know you prep before, but when those lights go out and the audience screams like a rock concert, how do you stay focused?
We have a warm-up routine, that you're going to talk about. Just to piggyback on that, one thing too, back in the Ars Nova days when we first had our real feeling performances, I don't know, but Ars Nova is fantastic and all the love to them. We used to say backstage, in light or in reflection of Waiting for Guffman, that tonight Mos Def is going to be here. Who's coming? Who's in the audience tonight? Is it Mos Def? Is it Mos Def? And opening night.
That's 2004. We were joking backstage in the green room, but like, you guys, Mos Def is most definitely not going to be in the audience tonight. That is like literally what we'd say to each other before every show.
Opening night on Broadway, Mos Def was in the audience.
Did you know who was in the house that night? I was most definitely at the booth. Did you know that night who was there, or did some of you say, I don't want to know?
Yeah, I didn't want to know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the thing that we almost always do, though, right before whatever that like pre-show moment when the lights go down and the kind of like sound,
the roar hits.
Yeah. The last moment that we tend to do right before that is we all find a moment to put some part of, whatever it is, just to show confidence and love and respect, and say, and look each other in the eye and say, I've got your back.
Yeah. What was the craziest word during the Broadway run, or something that happened that you got this word, you were like, I have no idea what we're going to do with this, but it just blew the roof off the place? Do you each have one?
Ooh.
Stage management, because, people like to drop F-bombs in the bucket or say things that are, because we take words on a piece of paper and put them in a big bucket. But stage management would go through just quickly, not for us, but I mean, not to let us know, but they'd go through and just, there was a whole other bucket that they saved with the word moist. It was an entire bucket. They would pull the word moist, and they'd get like 4 or 5 every show. So there was a huge bucket at the end of it.
So that was the craziest word for you. Aneesa, for you.
I feel like I had a couple. One was I found myself in the first chair a lot during True, and it's kind of a scary place to be because you have to go first. This is the section of the show where you have to say a true story of something, something that has affected you using that word. Yeah. And I remember one time we got a word that I didn't know what it meant. And I was in the first chair, and Anthony was the one getting the words, and he was coming to sit in the second chair. I got up and I moved to the second chair, and I said, I don't know what this is, so you're going to have to you're going to have to figure this out. And then he told me through his verse what it meant. And that's the beauty of Freestyle Love Supreme, because you could do things like that and be fine. And I was like, all right, thank you. Another one I would say, I was in the first year again, and the word was timeless. And my friend Emmy had come to see the show. I hadn't seen her in years, but we were in college together. And 2 weeks before graduation, one of our dear friends, he ended up passing away very randomly from meningitis, which was just very sudden, and it was very hard. Yes, Patrick. Yeah, Patrick Chittenden. And I just saw her face, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I like locked eyes with her, and I was like, yeah, that's it. And just talked about her and what it was like finding out about that so suddenly. And I think I said, say less. I know that you're gone, Patrick, but to me, you're timeless. And just kind of broke down. And then there was a standing ovation. And then just, all of the guys came over and hugged me, and I was just crying. And Anthony said to me, this is for Patrick. And it was just in that moment. It's just, I don't know, it's so rewarding to be in a show where anything goes. And you could be having the worst day, but when you get on that stage, I love doing it so much because it doesn't matter what I went through that day or what mood I'm in, because you don't have time to think about anything else. You're in the moment and you're thankful and just in good spirits, because what else can you do but smile at a Freestyle Love Supreme show or cry? It could go either way.
I love that we're talking about a comedy improv show, right? Like, say, on the surface, a musical comedy improv show, and then it's this container that I think, like Aneesa's saying, allows us to go in many different directions. So I love that about our show. I think, probably this might be from the off-Broadway run, but we get things that we often ask for, these pet peeves, which are like things that, that are really getting on your nerves. And I think it was right around Kavanaugh. We got the word Supreme Court, the Supreme Court. And so I got to just do a pretty delightful pet peeves. And I think I remember putting in por favor, we need more Sotomayor. RBG is going to bring back, the MVP, all these different things. And it just, again, I think goes to show to some of that ladderability of this thing, where it's just hey, all of this stuff is at play, right? So we're going to meet you wherever you are. Supreme Court, that's what you want to talk about? Great. We're happy to talk about that. Or I think the word meniscus might have been one of those words that was what the heck is meniscus all about? Great. We're willing to go there. Or if the word is skip, cool. We're willing to go there. So, I mean, there's countless examples too. And I think the one for me that still resonates too is that on opening night, Black Thought shouted out a suggestion. He shouted out justice. And then I think Lynn was on the other side, and I think he got the word family from Mark Eustis or something like that. And so we ended up putting the words together, and the suggestion we took for True was family justice. And I have two daughters, 6 and 9. And my partner and I have been working for the last 3 years on putting together a redesign on sexuality education to be modern, because there's not much that exists out there in schools. At 5th grade, they have a half-hour class that they talk about sexuality. And it's a VHS tape from 1984. Wow. That's the state of affairs in the world. So I got to rap about this project that I've been working on for the last 3 years, about these playbooks that we're putting together for families so that they can have these conversations. Because that's the thrust of a lot of my work in my life is Freestyle Love Supreme. It's about conversations, right? The Academy, it's about conversations, especially around race and around difference. And then for Bloom, this thing that I've been working on, it's about conversations around sex and sexuality, because we need to meet people where they are. There's a huge, all of these things that are happening in the world around online pornography, sexual assaults, women on campuses. These are getting worse. They're not getting better. And it's just we need to find ways to make these things better. So that opening night, I got to rap about that from a word from my top 5 rap hero of all time, Black Thought. So no big deal.
No, well, I'll tell you, every time I've seen a performance, I left smarter. I mean, just there's so many things you learn from what you put out there. I mean, and all the shows are so different, but they were so amazing. And this documentary, again, we're going to talk about this. Everybody, you've got to tune in. Starts this Friday on Hulu, July 17th. It was so great to watch the entire journey. This is one of the best documentaries ever made about a showbiz thing. I mean, it's so great to watch. I mean, Aneesa, you just falling in love with this and then going to the class and then getting to make your Broadway debut, as you all did. But I mean, just the journey this whole thing has started from a group of friends of putting this all together. And what's happened to all of you is really, really amazing. So I want to thank you all for being here today. I've had a blast. Like I said, the last time I spoke to you all was opening night. You had a fabulous opening night party. I remember that opening night party on Broadway for your show was so much fun.
Thank you.
But, you know, so finally, if I give you a few words, would the three of you sort of give me and our audience a little freestyle Love Supreme?
Yeah.
Rainbow, Broadway World, and stars.
Yeah. It's Freestyle Love Supreme. You won't even know though. I love to look at the sky. I see a rainbow. Roy G. Biv. Yeah, you know I'm gonna go far. You're looking at FLS greatest stars. Yeah, got Ant. Yeah, maybe I don't have on pants. It's StreamYard. We ain't on Zoom. Yeah, we doing it all day. Bring you all to your doom. Just kidding. What was the give it to Anthony?
Broadway World.
Yeah.
Okay. Check it out. Yeah, just heard from that girl about the Broadway world in which she exists in. Thank you very much. I'm missing Broadway so damn much. I just want another alphabet touch. Could you please make me green and skinned? I don't even know. I'm just winning, grinning when I'm there, looking for an answer, looking for some ways to just find how we can explore our humanity in a dark room together without masks on.
Missed it.
That is great. I have had such a good time with you all. Seriously, this has been so great. What a full circle moment for you. And even to have Lin-Manuel drop by on his phone. Listen, everybody, stay safe. Like I said, everybody, our audience, tune in July 17th at Hulu for the documentary and check out FLS, the Academy online. They offer so many incredible classes. I mean, for so many people who just don't want to be in the business, just for public speaking and everything else, and just to make your life so much better. Take care, y'all. Good to see you, all righty? I love this. Take care.
Bye.